Because the glue is so close to the spine, it is also the level of depth across time that makes up their soul, and it is hidden away in the book. I have a little notebook that I affectionately call my little blue notebook, and it is my absolute favorite. In this notebook, I keep a lot of my ideas, especially when I'm looking at the connections between things or the underlying meaning between things. And back in April, I did a little entry in here that I called Books in the Shape of Attention. And I drew a little diagram about what I thought the symbolism of the shape and the paper and the words and the physical structure of books can represent. And I've gone a little bit deeper into this since I made this entry, and so I thought it would be fun to do an extended discussion about it. So my assistant today is going to be this lovely copy of the Odyssey by Homer. It is from 1941. It is absolutely amazing. I'm here to verify that it smells like an old basement, and it makes me so happy. So when you go to your bookshelf and you pick up a book, the first thing that you will see is the cover. Now I'm going to use this as a symbol for the last thing that happens in a book after you close it at the very end, which is the impression or the memory that is left after you have finished a book. I know of several books off the top of my head where when I think of them, a very specific feeling that is complex and rich comes to my mind when I think of them. It's almost like a Polaroid picture from 10 years ago that has this level of nostalgia because it's a home that you haven't been in since. And every little cup that was in the cupboard, every taste of the meal that you ate, every laugh that you shared with the people there is all captured in that one Polaroid. And it's a feeling that is so complex that even if a single cup were taken out of the memory, it would alter it. And that is the feeling that is in the deceivingly simple cover of a book. Another part of the cover is the spine. And because it represents the thickness of the book, I believe that it represents the depth that is gained across time. So with a good book, emphasis on the word good, as it continues to go longer and longer and longer, and the deeper you get into it, the more time you have invested, the deeper you are immersed in it, and the meaning just grows and grows over time. And that is represented by the spine, I believe. Now, before we open our lovely book and begin to read, we have to open the cover. Now, the cover is in the shape of a door or a window. And just as when you look through a door or a window and expect it to be a portal into something beautiful and amazing and different than where you are now, I believe it's the same way when we open the door of a book. Now, when you get inside the book, you will have a table of contents, and each chapter represents a different milestone in your journey towards the unified whole that is the cover. And each one has its own little plot line, and each one has its own little aesthetic. Just like maybe one chapter is like the Shire and another chapter is like Rivendell. They're all a part of the same journey. They're all on the same map, but they're different locations with their own feel and their own concerns and their own stories. Once you get past this, you will probably have an introduction in your book. And the introduction is where someone who's, you could almost say their book has more pages than yours does. Their spine is thicker, they've spent more time with this book and therefore are able to gain a greater depth and have a more nuanced view of what the author intended for you to get out of the book. So if you read the introduction, whether it be before the book or after the book, depending on how much you want to risk spoiling the entire book, its goal is to teach you how to perceive. so that when you close the book and all that is left is the memory, which is the cover, you have a more rich and nuanced view. It's not just mere subjectivity, not merely just what you feel or what you have read, but it creates a little bit more depth, and you get to see it with a more colorful perspective, which makes the memory a lot richer. Once you get past this, you get to your text. And now your text has the title, or at least this one does. At the top, it has the title, which is the promise that this is going to end in a cohesive whole. And it has the chapter, which is a reminder of where you are on your journey. Where are you? What milestone are you at on the map? The page numbers represent the little accomplishments that give you the hope that you are making progress. The words themselves are like tiny glass shards or fragments that are broken and they're sharp, and it represents a laser-focused attention that doesn't have any context around it. And so if you just take an individual phrase, such as, moreover, you have 5 sons at home. This has no meaning in and of itself, but you take the next blind leap and you read the sentence, and then you read the paragraph, you read the chapter. Every time that you step on one of these shards as you continue to go through the book is a blind leap of faith that these eventually are going to start flowing into a seamless river as you continue to get into a flow state and as you progress towards the end of the book. This is probably my favorite part, and that is what I wrote. This is the part that started it in the little blue notebook. So I want to compare the margins with the glue. So the margins are your participation in the book. You can think of this symbolically as these are the outsiders, the foreigners coming in to partake of this book. And this is where I will keep sometimes entire journal entries that were sparked by whatever I was reading. Sometimes it will be just a simple smiley face to show that I thought that something was funny. But regardless, it's my participation in the book that is happening here, and it's almost entire subjectivity. Now, when you get to the glue of the book that is holding everything together that you can't see, most importantly, you cannot see it when you are reading the book, is the soul of the author. It is the author's life story, their intentions, their personality. Because the glue is so close to the spine, it is also the level of depth across time that makes up their soul. And it is hidden away in the book. But just because it is hidden doesn't mean it isn't important, because it is what binds the entire book together. Without the glue, without the soul of the author, all of these words would just be mere fragments that would have no meaning, and the leaves would just fall off the page. What you will notice is that the margin and the glue has something between them, and that's the words. The words are not entirely in where the glue is, and they're not entirely in the margin. They're somewhere in between. And as you continue to scan the book, as you read, you are flitting back and forth between your own subjectivity and the author's soul. And it is this constant dialogue going back and forth, and what is between them is what will create the cover at the end, that will create your perception of the novel. So when you are reading, you're not entirely an objective observer, because you are bringing your own glue, you're bringing your own soul and your own perception and personality into the book. But it's also not entirely subjective, because again, the author's soul is what glues it all together. And if you are reading well, you are allowing yourself to write in the margin but not forgetting the glue. You're having this in-between conversation between you and the author, back and forth, until you get to where the book says, and it says it in this book because this book is perfect, the end. And once you get to the end, there are a couple of blank pages. And as much as we love words in this modern era, I think the greatest mercy of a book is that there are pages at the end. And these pages are an invitation to just sit and feel. I can't remember who said this quote, it was some composer, that music is not in the notes but in the silence between them. And this is the silence at the end where you get to sit back and process what you actually read. You get to sit in silence without the words but continue to feel. So the fragments that were the words became the river of feeling, and now you just get to wade in it for these blank pages. And then, once you are finished with the blank pages, you close the door again. And you are back into your world. And what you have left remaining is your memory. And every time you remember the book is like looking at it on the bookshelf. You see this cover, you see this unified whole that was miraculously made out of the fragments that are the words on the page. So this was a really fun video to make, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have thoughts in the comments, maybe you see something that I don't when it comes to the symbolism of a book. Maybe there are things that you agree with or things that you disagree with. It would be very fun to start a little discussion in the comments and talk about our different perceptions on a very subjective topic, that is staring at a book for a very long time and seeing what we get. Other than that, I will see you in my next video, and I wish you joy in your pursuit of wisdom and wonder.